Welcome to Chapter 21, Hollow Verbs. Turn with me in your textbook to page 227. I want to look together with you at the vocabulary and note some of the characteristics of these words. First of all, I want to start with the word avon and its plural form avonot. As you can see, the textbook glosses this word as sin or transgression. I would encourage you to cross those two terms out and write the word iniquity, comma, punishment, comma, guilt. Avon is one of the three most common Old Testament words used in reference to sin, but it means perverse crookedness, or that which is not straight, and is most commonly translated in our English versions by the word iniquity. One other item about the vocabulary: the textbook does not tell you what the vowel value of these hollow verbs is, and so I've indicated that here on my book. Beit Vav Aleph is pronounced bo, so you have a holem vav with that. Here the verb to die is mut. The verb to turn aside is sur with a shurik. The verb to get up or rise is kum. The verb to return is shuv. And the verb to put is seem. At the bottom of your vocabulary section is a bulleted note that describes the pronunciation of some of the words, but there are typos associated with that, so I'm going to cover that up. And in its place, I'm going to put the correct information. The vav in the following words is a consonant and is pronounced as a V. Mitzvah, mitzvot, avon. And the first vav in the word avonot is also a consonantal vav. So this is not mitzot, it's mitzvot. This is not aon, this is avon. And you want to be aware that these vowels are consonantal. Okay, moving on to the lesson proper, hollow verbs. A hollow verb is a verb which has a vav or a yod as the middle root letter. Now, you ought to note that vav and yod are vowel letters. They are not consonants. And because they are vowel letters, they can drop out. And that's how the verbs get their name, hollow verbs. This middle vowel letter will drop out. And there's actually 4 places in the Cal verb paradigm where that middle radical drops out. And they've been listed here on the textbook. As you can see, I've written that in. And it's also on the assignment. Underneath this video, you'll find the 4 places where the hollow verbs lose their middle radical. The Cal perfects, the Cal active participles, the Cal gessive, and vav consecutive, Cal vav consecutive imperfects are the 4 places where hollow verbs lose their middle radical. Now there are some other places in other stems, but we haven't learned those stems yet, so this is all you need to know for the present time. And you can see how this works in the perfect tense with a series of hollow verbs: shuv, bo, mut, and seem. And notice that shuv in the Cal perfect is shavti, shavta, shavt, shav, shava, shavnu, shavtim, shavtim, shavu. And there's no third radical. In the case of bo, the vav is lost, and you just get bati, bata, bat, ba, ba, and so on. The same thing with mut and with seem. So the cal perfect is the first of the 4 places where the middle radical, the vav or the yod of a hollowed verb, drops out. If we move on over to page 228, we can see the second place is that in the cal active participle, the middle radical drops out as well. And instead of shomer, shomeret, shomrim, shomrot, we get shav, shava, shavim, shavot, ba, ba'a, ba'im, ba'ot, mate, mata, matim, matot, and sam, sama, samim, samot. So, for example, in the sentence Yitzhak ba ha'ira, that could be a cal perfect, Isaac came to the city, or it could be a participle, because the cal perfect third masculine singular and the participial masculine, the cal active participle masculine singular are identical. Since we're in the section on participles, we should probably take it as a participle. Isaac is or was coming to the city. Rachel ba'a, Rachel is coming. Hu ra'a et Rachel ve'az ba eleha. He saw Rachel and then was coming to her. Again, taking it as a participle. Okay, moving on to hollow verbs in the imperfect. Your textbook says to notice that the middle root letter, vav or yod, does not drop out in the imperfect, and reminds you that the vowel kibbutz sometimes can replace the vowel shurik, but does not change the meaning of the word. What I'd like to point out, I've written underneath, is that there's a characteristic of hollow verb imperfect forms, and that is that there is a comets under the performative for hollow verbs. Notice that the normal vowel under the performative for a strong verb is a hirik. Tishmor, tishmari, yishmor, tishmor, nishmor, tishmoru, tishmaru, and so on. Whereas with hollow verbs, the characteristic vowel under the performative is a comet. Ashuv, tashuv, tashuvi, yashuv, tashuv, and so on across the chart. There's no change in the performative letters that are added, no change in the suffixes that are added. The key change here is in the performative vowel. All right, let's turn to page 229, and we get what your textbook calls the command form of the hollow verbs. Remember that the command forms are typically called imperatives. And in the imperative, as with the imperfect, the middle letter does not drop out, and the imperative forms are derived by removing what they call signal letter, or what I call the performative tav, from the imperfect u. So instead of tishmor, you get shmor. Instead of tashuv, you just get shuv. Shuv, bo, mut, sim. Return, come, die. The middle letter also does not drop out in the infinitive construct and in the infinitive absolute. So what is particularly noteworthy in the infinitive about the infinitive construct is that the form of the infinitive construct, and maybe I can just highlight this for you, the form of the infinitive construct is identical to the imperative form. This is true all the way along. So context is going to be the key determiner of whether we're looking at an imperative or we're looking at an infinitive construct. Unique to the infinitive absolute, and let me just write that there to remind you that that's the preferred terminology, is that the hollow letter is, and the infinitive absolute is always a holum vav, even with a verb like seem, where the middle radical is a yod. Because this is an infinitive absolute, the letter is always a holum vav. So in this case, some of these cases, for example, with the word bow, there's no difference between the imperative, the infinitive construct, and the infinitive absolute. Well, once again, context is your friend. Moving on down the page is a discussion of hollow verbs with clipped forms, and the textbook notes that when you have what it calls a clipped form, which is what everybody else calls the vav consecutive imperfect, the middle letter drops out. Now this is because the vav on the beginning of the verb form draws the accent or the tone and causes the word to shorten, and as a result of its shortening, that middle vowel letter is lost. So the simple imperfect form of moot is yamut, and when we get the vav consecutive, vayamat. Yasur, vayasar. Yakum, vayakam. Yashuv, vayashav. Yasim, vayasem. The textbook suggests in their mind that it's easy to confuse the verbs. I don't really think that that's the case. If you'll pay attention to the fact that you've got a vav with a shava under it, you clearly have a simple vav followed by a perfect form, he will sit, from the verb yashav, whereas here you have a vav consecutive. It's clearly the vav consecutive is only on the imperfect form, therefore the yod cannot be part of the verb's stem or root letters. So the stem actually begins with the letter sheen, and this is from shuv, vayashav, he returned. All right, moving to the next page, we get the paradigm of the hollow verb, and just a few comments here. Note these caret that occurs above a syllable is letting you know when that syllable is to be pronounced. In other words, if there's a caret there, you're to pronounce that syllable rather than allowing the accent to fall on the final syllable, as is the standard rule. I've marked that the cal perfect 3ms shav is identical to the cal active masculine singular participle. I would also point out that the cal perfect 3fs is the same as the cal active participle 3fs. So once again, context is crucial to determining which is intended. Also, as I noted before, the imperative masculine singular form is identical to the infinitive construct. Over here, I've circled and made a note that this is not an actual spelling of a form. What they're trying to tell you is that the second person feminine plural can be spelled with either a holum or a shurik. So it can be teshovena or it can be teshuvena. And you never get two vowels like that in actual spelling. That's a hybrid form, just to let you know what the options are. All right, the last item for this chapter is what the textbook calls the question hey, what everybody else calls the hey interrogative. And as the textbook notes, a question may be introduced with the prefix hey with a chatef patak underneath it. And this prefix is called the question hey or hey interrogative and should not be confused with the definite article, which is the hey with a patak followed by a dagesh. The hey interrogative usually takes the chatef patak and there is no dagesh in the following letter. So the examples they give, if you want to ask, is David there? Ha David Sham. Did you remember the place? Ha Zachartem et Hamakom. And am I my brother's keeper? Ha Shomer Achi Anochi. When the hey interrogative is used with the word lo, it usually expresses a rhetorical question. That is, it is not or did it not. For example, Halo ketuvim heim batorah. Are they not written in the Torah? Halo hu amarli. Did he not say to me? And there is occasionally some variation in the vowel underneath the question, the interrogative hey, but there's never a dagesh in the following letter. And if you want to see what variations are possible, check out footnote 36. Alright, that's it for lesson 21. If you have any questions, feel free to email or call me.